This is Mazda's new land yacht, the CX-90, which now means that Mazda has 3 7-seat SUVs in its lineup, although the CX-8 will soon be retired. But is the CX-90 worth the extra money? Let's find out. I'm Alex Dalrymple. This is Four Wheels and a Seat, a channel where you can see new cars reviewed every week. You don't want to miss one though, so please hit the subscribe button down below. Give me a like if you enjoy the video, and don't forget the notification bell as well. Thanks. Several months ago, Mazda launched a new 5-seater SUV, the CX-90, which cemented the brand's intention to now make slightly more premium, more refined vehicles to take on the Europeans at their own game. A short while afterwards, they launched the CX-90, which is bigger, more refined, more powerful, and better to drive than the CX-8 or CX-9. And this is indeed a big car. I think it's actually the biggest SUV Mazda have ever made, and it's got a lot of high rising vertical surfaces, and you can see that here at the front with the evolution of the Kodo design, giving this car a big sort of cascading grille here that's still a similar shape to the old one, but it is distinctly different. The light clusters have evolved as well. They're no longer horizontal, but they're now vertically stacked, and the bonnet is just enormous. We'll have a look under there in a minute. And from the side, you can see this car is nearly as tall as me. In fact, the only thing I don't really quite like about it are the doors. They're sort of big slabs of sheet metal without any real kind of shape to them. I'd like a little more detail, perhaps. This top spec Azami model gets 21-inch alloys and a full-length sunroof. And I really like what Mazda have done here at the back as well, with these new light clusters that again also are a bit more horizontal rather than round. We've got a powered tailgate here, which for some reason on this particular car doesn't open up quite as high as I'd like it to go, but I don't know if that's something you can change or not, but you can just push it up a little higher. There we go. With the 3 rows of seats up, you get 207 litres worth of space. Knock down the 3rd row and it becomes 608. Knock down the 2 back rows, 2,025 litres of storage space. Interestingly, this particular car doesn't have a spare tyre or even a tyre repair kit. I think that might be just something unique to this particular press car. Fingers crossed nothing happens. Open up the enormous bonnet and you'll find a plastic cover which is hiding the mild hybrid engine, which is a 3.3 litre straight 6. It's turbocharged and outputs 254 kilowatts of power and 500 Newton meters of torque. Fuel economy clocks in at about 8.2 litres per 100 kilometres on a combined cycle. Power driven to all 4 wheels via an 8-speed automatic transmission. Brake towing capacity clocks in at 2,500 kilos. The interior of the CX-90, especially in this top spec Azami grade, is a very nice place to be. There are virtually no hard scratchy surfaces to speak of at all. It's all soft touch materials and textured aluminium finishes and Napa leather. It's quite premium. The center console screen is 12.3 inches, running Mazda's latest software featuring wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. It's not really a touch screen, however, but it will allow you to use touch for Apple CarPlay when the car is parked. Otherwise, it's all about the jog wheel down here on the lower console. There's a 12-speaker Bose sound system, which sounds pretty good. There's also native navigation as well as cameras at the front and rear, plus a top-down 360 parking view. The climate controls have quite a few buttons. There's a lot going on here, but it does run completely independently of the center console screen. There's 3 zones of climate control altogether, 2 at the front and 1 at the rear. The lower console features wireless phone charging plus a 12-volt outlet, cup holders under a little slidey lid there. The gear shifter is one thing I don't particularly like though. It's this weird kind of J-gate sort of shape, but upside down. So you've got to kind of go across for park and then left for reverse and then down to drive. It's just doesn't really quite feel very intuitive. The jog wheel to control the center screen, as I mentioned before, plus a nice big center console bin with dual opening lid and soft armrests on it. In front of the driver, the head-up display is nice and clear, not a huge amount of information on there. The digital instrument cluster is the same as the CX-90, so in normal mode it just kind of mimics analog dials, but you can change that to another view for the adaptive cruise control, which will show you representations of the cars around you. Steering wheel has a nice feel, leather wrap with stitching. Not a lot to report about it really, other than the normal sort of audio controls, as well as the adaptive cruise controls, which are actually very easy to use. The steering wheel also features electric height and reach adjustment. The seats are Nappa leather and they are very comfortable. There's full electric adjustment with lumbar support for the driver and front passenger, plus they are heated and ventilated. Seating position is really good, loads of headroom, great visibility out the front, right to the front of that enormous bonnet. It's okay through the rear vision mirror, but the rear windscreen is actually a little bit on the small side. Wing mirrors are nice and big and they've got blind spot monitors as well. There is also the driver personalisation system, where the car will adjust the seating position and the position of the steering wheel according to your height, and it will do it automatically by using facial recognition. So I've already entered in my details, and if I go driver 1 here, it's actually now adjusting everything according to what it thinks is my ideal driving position. And I'm not entirely sure I agree with the car on this one. This feels way too far away from the steering wheel for me, and a little bit too high up, and I think the wheel's a bit too high too. So I think I might just stick with what I'm comfortable with. So I've just put my driver's seat back in the position that I'm comfortable with, not the one that Mazda chose for me. And in the back seat here, I can tell you I've got loads of room. This is very comfortable. So plenty of headroom, my knees nowhere near the seat in front. We've got an extra zone of climate control back here, plus 2 USB-C ports. The outboard seats here are heated, and it's nice and light and bright thanks to the panoramic sunroof. We've got an armrest here with cup holders, plus there's also privacy shades here. So back here, it is actually very, very comfortable. Third row seats are never a great experience for me, being as tall as I am. So I'm just really trying this out for the hell of it. Yeah, without moving the seat in front of me forward, it's just not going to happen at all. Yeah, this isn't really good for me, but look, it'll be fine if you have, you know, small children who really want to ride in the back, or you just need to carry that many children around, I guess. There's another USB-C port back here, another one on the other side too. Cup holders, and these leather seats, Nappa leather, they're very comfortable. So yeah, if you're a child, you'll be quite happy back here, but grown-ups, no, give it a miss. The CX-90 is a large car. It was really made with the American market in mind, and it's so big that it's actually not sold in Japan, where it's made. And having just been there recently myself, I can attest to the fact that they do have a lot of very narrow roads in the back streets of Tokyo and Osaka. I could not begin to imagine trying to negotiate a car this size around some of those streets and into some of the very tight parking spots they have there. But I think this is probably the most refined Mazda that has ever been made. It is really smooth, really quiet, and almost sort of limousine-like in its ride. It is extremely comfortable. What it's not so great at, though, is being dynamic on corners. It's a little bit wallowy there, and I mean, I guess that's a bit of a trade-off. If you're going to have a smooth ride, you've got to have pretty soft suspension, and this car does sort of roll into the corners a little bit. But going over speed humps, I mean, they're barely noticeable. The 6-cylinder engine, though, does make a nice noise when you put your foot down. But it doesn't feel overly powerful, and it really sort of saves its best work for the freeway, where there is plenty of power to overtake. Sport mode does liven things up a little bit, and then there is also the off-road mode, which changes the way that power and torque is delivered to the wheels. And if you have a genuine Mazda tow kit available, that unlocks the towing drive mode. Safety gear includes blind spot monitors in the wing mirrors, forward collision alert, which has gone off at ghosts a couple of times this week, and also emergency braking if the car thinks you're about to have a collision, and that has happened a couple of times when I've been reversing out of my driveway and the system gets a little bit confused by a flower that sticks out a little bit too much. I've actually had to heartbreakingly cut the flower off. This car really is the ultimate family road trip car just because it is so comfortable and so roomy. Both of my kids have been in the back and both of them independently of each other commented on just how comfortable it is. You can make it even more comfortable though with the optional captain's seats. That does lower this car's capacity from 7 down to 6, but it does ensure that second row passengers will be extremely comfortable with their armrests and wider seats. So the only things that I've really found that are missing in the CX-90 that you might find in some of the European cars that this car is sort of setting out to mimic it a little bit are things like seat massage functions, automatic parking, and navigation on the digital instrument cluster. Apart from that, the rest is pretty much on par with anything that you'd find from any of the major European brands. And the build quality and the feeling of the materials and the leather, it all feels so premium in here. So this is probably the biggest and most expensive Mazda that has ever been produced. It's over 100 grand. And I had a friend just say to me today, in fact, would you really want to drop that kind of money on a Mazda? And I said, look, to be honest, yeah, it's that good. Mazda really have upped the stakes with the CX-90, so if you've got your heart set on a European-made 7-seater SUV for your family, I'd seriously consider putting a CX-90 on your shopping list. It does everything the Euros do, but just for a bit less money.